Good morning, everybody. And that was a different kind of introduction. I'm not really used to doing stuff like this, but because I have a personal vested interest in today, I thought I would share that video with you because my friend Paul took that, and the day he sent that to me was the day I hopped a plane and went over there. So, what you're looking at today is the 20th anniversary of September 11th, which it doesn't need an introduction, does it? And so, everything you see here on the show today in regards to that, this is a one off. This was something I painstakingly put together the entire evening yesterday. And, I think it's the one thing that I can do because we're 20 years out now. So, you can enter your cliches of remember this or who doesn't remember this, and, everything's just media hype and politicization now. But that's not what today's about. Today's about just reminding ourselves that the day after today is the day that America got all its priorities straight. And it's really unfortunate that it takes a national tragedy or something akin to a world war to hard reset humanity's goals, I guess is a good way to put it. So, anyway, good morning and welcome to the Week in Review. Um, this show is going to probably be shorter today. We typically go about 2 hours, but I think today we're just going to do it to an hour because there's a lot of things that people want to go out and do today, and I'm not going to tie up your time if you have things to do in regards to this. So we're only going to run for an hour today, just out of respect for everyone's time. And I mean, as you can see, I have a limited uh, cast today because some folks had things to do even before we went on air today. So I have a panelist. His name's Scott. Welcome and good morning.
Morning.
So I do have news stories for you all, but I cut it down to three because I figured what we would do is we would get into this, but in keeping with tradition of the format of the show, we can start with the week in review, personals, and for me, it really wasn't much of a week. I had been planning doing this show for probably a month now, and what you're seeing on the left side of your screen is photos taken by either my friend Paul or myself the day after of rescues and just any and all digital pictures I could find because you have to think about the technology of 2001. So some of the pictures may be grainy. Some of the screenshots of the video captures that I had taken over the days or the weeks, following, they're going to be a little grainy, but it's enough to remind you that this was a world-changing event. This is the stuff that goes into history books. This is the stuff that when you bounce your grandkids off your knee, you can tell them that you were there, kind of a thing. Um, but yeah, the I thought I had more pictures than what's actually going to show, but I'm sharing those with you. Some of these pictures are probably the first time you'll have ever seen them because they're from my personal collection and my friend Paul's personal collection. We had really crude digital cameras and things, but uh, we tried to capture this as best as we could. And given the time and just the shock of it all, uh, I'm surprised that the pictures weren't shakier just because of how anxious we were. And on the right, you'll see the scrolling list of all the victims of 9/11. I believe there was 2,814. So I'm not sure if the entire list will make it through in an hour, but you know what? It's going to keep going until it does. So uh, I got that up there for you too. Uh, Personal week in review, honestly, it was just that. It was show prep and just trying to make sure that this came out right because this is no joke. I'm not trying to offend anybody or provoke anybody or anything. This isn't about that today. Uh, the only other thing I really had going on was I had to take my dad to the hospital because His diabetes is obviously getting a lot worse, and his legs are starting to fail him. So he's not really allowed to drive uh, more than 5 minutes from the house anyway because he gets lost. And, uh, his doctor is an hour and a half away. So I ended up having to do that, which is why the lobby for working stiffs was a bit short the other day. Um, just a reminder though, if you want to be part of either this show or our daily chats in the lobby for working stiffs, which you can see up there at the top, you can email me at the link in the address in the description. I know it's a really long address, so I left it that way so you can just cut and paste it and just email me and let me know you'd like to be a part of this, either today or maybe just on the weekend shows or just to hang out with us throughout the week. We can do that. It's perfectly fine. If you have a name change since I last, spoke with you on the regular, just put your name that I would recognize in the email, so that way I could be like, okay, so this guy is this guy now, and I'll send you a permanent one-time invite, and that way, if you don't catch it the day I send it, you can still use it. And then once you're here, you're one of us, so that's perfectly fine. Let's see, what else do I have? I sort of converted my shockwave a little bit more, or a little bit less gray area, if you know what I mean. And I was planning on selling it today, but I can't because we're here. So I probably won't be able to go to my local show until tomorrow. But that's just the only other thing I really had to do this week. No real purchases. I mean, nothing serious at least. And, you know, as usual, several lost auctions. But it's kind of funny how hindsight works. Like, you passionately go into something and you throw money at it and you bid on it and you're like, oh, I got to have this. And then you lose. And then you look back on it and go, I probably didn't really even need that, to be honest. There's probably something better right around the corner. And sure enough, two more auctions popped up, so I'm in on those now, keeping an eye on that. So how was your week, Scott? I know you had some stuff going on where smell and taste and all that good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it was an interesting week to say the least. Uh, Sick as a dog for almost a week. Called out of work a couple times.
I would have. I had to take a day off for just playing taxi cab, but I hate missing work. Like, I don't. It's not that I enjoy what I do on a daily basis, but I don't know. Like, you guys out there watching, how well do you switch off? Like on your days off, Uh, typically on my weekends, I my Saturdays are usually, before I started doing this, my Saturdays were kind of a waste because I would get up, I didn't have anything to do. By the time I finally like realized you're off today, you idiot, go do something, the day's already almost over. So then my Sunday, I have to try to get a whole weekend in one day, and I turn around and get stuck in the house doing I call it my Sunday bitch work. But I mean, essentially what it is, wash dogs, do laundry, maybe yard work or whatever. So then I don't get to go out at all, which is lame. But Labor Day weekend was cool because I had an extra day. So when I lost the one, I still had 2 days to do things. And I think I got quite a bit done. Like, one promise I kept doing at the end of these shows is I'm gonna make some 9mm, and I never do. But last Saturday after the show, Saturday was a write-off, but Sunday, yeah, I sat down and I made about 800 rounds of 9mm, something like that. I've got this bottomless bucket of 9mm, like a M2 ball 30 cal ammo can, and it doesn't matter how many rounds I make, but that damn thing just doesn't seem to get full. I don't know where they're going, but it's not getting full. It's like at the same level every day, no matter how many rounds I throw in there. And I'm not going out and shooting it either. So how does that work? I'm not loading mags. I'm not shooting the rounds in mags. I'm not reloading mags. So where's all the rounds going? Anyway,
You're not getting drunk and selling them.
No, no, no. I well, okay, so I guess I'll get into that. Before last Friday, I had not touched a beer or any alcohol, to be honest, since Memorial Day, and it was mainly due to okay, so it's several factors. I live in South Texas. It's it's hot as balls, and drinking any alcohol in any volume like I do, you get dehydrated. And on a 109-degree day, the headache that comes with dehydration is severe. It's savage and severe. So no, no, I usually don't drink in the summer. That and most of the summer seasonals, I'm not really into. The one that possibly would have been my okay. Uh, Shiner Bock had this thing called Ruby Redbird, and it was slightly okay. It kind of reminds me of a Hogarden, which is
Ooh,
European, and it's kind of got that tangy taste to it. Or
whole garden is delicious.
it is. And the other one was Sea Dog Blueberry Ale, but they don't sell it in my part of the country. They do have it at certain bars, like my World of Beer near me, but I have to go there to get it, and it costs like $5 a pint for something I should be able to get a sixer for $7. So I don't really partake. And then my old standby on in the summer was Rolling Rock, but it's good on a hot day. It's light, it's crisp, it's refreshing. Um, but the problem is it's so weak, and I always feel like I'm throwing away money. I'm like, okay, I bought a 30 pack of this, and it took 17 before I even had remotely caught even a buzz. And I'm like, I'm just pissing money away. I could buy a lot of Lipton Brisk iced tea 2 liters for that kind of money, which is what I typically do in the summer. Um, but yeah, I hadn't touched one since Memorial Day. Last Friday, I was hoping that the Oktoberfest, the Marzen brews, would come out. Typically, St. Arnold starts brewing in July, and they start distributing by the second week of August. Well, last week they didn't even have it on the shelves yet, and I thought, okay, it's been a month. What's the deal? Yesterday, out of pure happenstance, I go to the grocery store and it's on the shelf, so I bought almost all of it. So my reserve stores are full again of little orange cans that say Oktoberfest on there because once upon a time it was my favorite. Now it's my second favorite because I love what comes after Oktoberfest in terms of St. Arnold seasonals. It's called Christmas Ale. But anyway, I don't want to talk about beer. I jokingly told Scott this morning that the layout that you guys are watching today is the product of alcohol because I just started putting down Oktoberfests and I knew that I had to prep the layout for today's show. And I don't remember doing any of this. That's how many I had yesterday. But I'm very proud of how this turned out, and I hope it looks good for you guys watching in full screen. My panelists don't get to see this until they do the replay, but I hope some of my efforts are worthy of your time because I started the minute I got home from work, and I didn't go to bed until almost 2 in the morning to make sure this was perfect, like just right. So yeah, that's the week in review, personals. What I thought we would do differently this week is because some of these pictures are my personal collection, and because of um, just the levity and gravity of the day, I want to do a segment about where were you the day this happened. And if you want to go first, you can, Scott. Either that or I'll just roll into it. But if you can remember um, where you were and kind of your, the range of whatever was going on in your mind when it happened, then, feel free to share it. I can do it. I can do mine afterwards.
Well, I was working for a company down in Bedford, Mass.
Hmm.
I was actually at work at the time. Um, listening to Howard Stern, of all people. And when the attack happened, I thought at first Howard was fucking with people a little bit. Because, Howard Stern and all.
Right.
And then, I kind of figured out that, oh, fuck, he ain't joking. And when it occurred, I kind of had a feeling it was who was behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember the 93 attack, where they tried blowing up the basement.
And
yes,
all
I have a
the
very
foundation
long memory.
pillars held. Yeah.
I have a very long memory, so I kind of realized that guy was kind of obsessed with attacking that one particular building. And I looked over at the guy next to me and said, I'm like, you watch, it was him. And I won't mention his name because dude's dead and deserves to be there. So that's where I was.
Well, so I graduated public school in 97. And I had just bought my house. I think within 6 weeks after I had graduated. I had just closed on the house I'm in today at 18 years old. I was working on procuring this house when I was 17, and my realtor and my family and the buyer, or the owner of the house, we were all trying to find a mutual way to allow a minor to purchase a house legally, because not many do. So we had worked through that for weeks. Then my graduation came, uh, and generally during graduations, you receive gifts. But my friend Jerry, he's pretty affluent, and he knew that at the time, I had a chemical interest in scotch. And for a graduation gift, he bought me a bottle of Johnny Walker's Excelsior, which was 82 years old, I think, at the time. And it was $7,500. And he left a note on there, and he said that when he was my age, his father did the same for him, and he thought that his own sons weren't deserving of such a gift, so he gave it to me. I gotta apologize for the dogs. Like, I warned everybody in my house to shut them up today, and apparently it went in one ear and out the other. So anyway, uh, in his note, he said that, his father did it for him. He sees me as a son. He wishes me all the best. Told me to crack it open, enjoy it, and savor it because somebody's grandfather put in the work. And so I did. I had a 3-finger glass. I shared another 3-finger glass with my dad, and we decided that we were only going to open it for special occasions once a year after that. So I still have about a third of it left, maybe half. It's kind of an odd shaped bottle. But anyway, I took time off when I graduated. I didn't go straight to college. Number one, because I couldn't afford it, because I just bought a house. Um, so I went to work as a dealership mechanic for Chevrolet. And if you're in our local chats, you probably heard me tell my horror stories and war stories about that, as a young kid working in a shop. But I'd saved my money, and I bought my dad a retirement gift. I bought him a 30th anniversary edition Camaro as a retirement gift because he retired the same year I graduated because I asked him to. And so I worked for almost 4 years. And then I finally decided, I think I'm going to try my hand at college. So I went and I did the entrance exams, and I scored pretty high. And I got accepted. So then I started going to college. And, typically people would tell you that there used to be 3, but I've sort of erased one. There's 2 real reasons why you go to college. One is because you're trying to enrich yourself personally, And two, because you're probably going to meet the person who will be your wife or husband if you're a woman. Or I'm not here to judge, whatever. But I went in there looking for wifey material, honestly, because I didn't know what I was going to do with my life at the time. Little did I know that I was going to get into psychology, and I took it very seriously. And I did meet the woman I thought I was going to marry, and that's ancient history. Like, it just didn't work out. I really don't want to delve into it too much. But one day I got up like I did every day before and waddled out to my living room to go to my kitchen to go grab a cup of coffee because I had school that day. And my mom, who lives with me, um, she was standing in the living room and she had her hands covering her mouth and tears all over her hands. And I looked over at her and she didn't even know that I walked right by her. She was so fixated on the TV that she didn't even see me. So I tapped her on the shoulder, and she jumped like I had scared her, and she looked at me. She's like, "Oh my God, you have to see this." And that picture you're looking at right now is basically what she was watching. And I thought it's a little too early for what if movies. But the lower third that was scrolling across the bottom told me that this was very real. So yeah, it was the day I was getting ready to go to school, and I had immediately, realized that there wasn't gonna be school, and there wasn't gonna be much of anything, to be honest, like nothing. And I was right. And strangely enough, my friend Paul, he he couldn't get a hold of me for hours. Like, cell phone service in New York City was just grounded. Like, everybody was calling anybody, and he had a hard time getting a hold of me. But when he did, he'd sent me the video that I showed you in the beginning of the intro today. And when I saw that, my only response was, "I'm on my way. Uh, tell whoever," because he was a volunteer fireman, and I was like, "I'm on my way. You tell me where you need me, and I'll be there." And I was there within, I think, 20 hours. But yeah, I mean, it was really bad. The entire country just stopped that day. Nothing mattered to anybody. And the only things I can remember as a result of the day, I want to say Mike Piazza hit a home run that day in a game. And that ball became like infamous as, the 9/11 home run because it was supposedly considered the first act of defiance to terrorism. Like, we will go on, and I think the ball sold at Sotheby's for God knows how much, but it did. And I remember that weeks, I think it was probably several weeks after, I had tickets to go to WWE SmackDown live, and it just happened to be right around 9/11. It was in Houston, and it was supposed to be here, and it got canceled, obviously. And I was with my fiance at the time, and they contacted everyone who purchased tickets, and they promised that there would be a show, it will come back, your tickets will still be good, hanging on to them. And we got the call, and I think it was sometime in October, just before Halloween. We got the call, and they said, "Come out to," where did they do it? I want to say it was at the Houston Summit, which which is now Lakewood Church, but at the time it was still, I think, the Houston Summit. And they said, "Be there early, hours early." So She and I went, and we got there 3 hours early, and they had this giant meet and greet. Like, you can say what you want about the McMahon family, but their patriotism is unquestionable. And the first show they did after 9/11 was the one that we went to. Like, they had stopped everything until that show. And when they did it, it was incredible. It was just one giant patriotic gala. And I was very um, honored to be there, to say I was there. And we got to meet all the wrestlers. I got to meet Mark Calloway, which I had a funny story about. He actually bought my motorcycle, unbeknownst to him. Like, I told him he bought my motorcycle, and then he remembered the name on the title, and he says, "Are you Sean?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "It's a pleasure to meet you." So, like, my girl at the time was just, floored. She was like, "You know the Undertaker?" And I'm like, "Not directly," but we had a good time. And, at that time, the nation was already in healing. And I think one of the pictures you're going to see in the 9/11 and pictures on the left is there's a still shot of the moment that President W. Bush, 43, uh, received the news. He was at like an elementary school public reading, and one of his staff came and whispered in his ear. And I've seen the video, but I only had the still shot for this one. But you could see the look on his face. When he first got the news, he sort of nodded. Then he kind of looked off into the distance, like above the kids, and you could see the rage building on his face. But he couldn't get up and leave because he's at a public thing. And like the teacher didn't know, and the kids didn't know yet. So he had to just sit there and swallow it down and just contain that that welling of anger, which I don't bottle up very good these days. I used to, but if somebody whispered that in my ear, man, just you better get the hell out of my way, because I think he handled that pretty well. But yeah, that's where I
A lot of
was
people criticized him for that.
for not getting up.
Yeah.
I think I forgot what it was that Trump did, but he did something similar where he said, "Look, I didn't want to put people into a panic. These kids don't know what's going on. This teacher didn't know what's going on, you know? It's like, why ruin their day? Those kids, you know? That was a memorable thing for those kids to say, I met the president and he came to my school and read us a book. That's not something most kids get to see." So, I mean, nobody's had to handle that situation before.
Well,
And for
one
him to
other
be the
president
first,
has.
well, Lyndon Johnson?
No. FDR.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. But see, the thing is FDR knew that an attack was imminent. He just didn't know where and what day. But they knew in the back of their mind that there was always a possibility that it was going to happen. So anyway, yeah, that's where I was in my living room the day of, and I was on site the day after, essentially. But I I can't really convey how I felt about it. I just sat there and watched it. Like, my mom was really emotional. I sat there and I watched it and I just thought, What the hell, you know? Why there?" But like you said, they tried it in '93, and over time I started to think about it, and I said to myself, yeah, it's the hub for global economics. It's a symbolic um, hall of fame for business, essentially, right? So going after that was supposed to put a pinprick in the heart of the world, more or less, because everyone had a vested interest in it. And there's something I will share at the end of this show that came from overseas as a gift to us. because of this. I'll read it out loud if you can't read the caption because I did it in a script, but I did have something like that I wanted to share. Just because for some reason I keep I keep coming back to this, but it takes a tragedy or a world war to unify a country and get humanity's priorities straight. And I think it's kind of sad. But I think what's even sadder is the enemy of the people right now is not the guy sitting in the White House. You may think so. You might be right. But the thing that really divides this country right now is corporate owned media. They are the great divider of the people right now. And what I will show you at the end of this show is a perfect illustration of that. And the only way that you're going to defeat that type of negative propaganda is to either flip the TV off or write your congressman or maybe pressure the FCC to do their job because they're not. And then, we can pressure our congress people to do something about social media selectively censoring people because they're supposed to be a platform, not a publisher, right? That you've heard that argument probably 1,000 times before. If you're going to let people post things, then you're a platform. If you're going to censor and edit and mute and fact check and do whatever, now you're trying to be a publisher, and you don't have the legal right to do that because you never entered a contract with that person to edit their content, or in some cases, delete it or mute it. Now they're just denying you your First Amendment rights. Anyway, that's kind of where I'm at in terms of where I was, how I was thinking, how I was feeling, um, what I ended up doing afterwards. It was a really strange series of events. I remember when I went back to work, um, I think by then I had changed jobs. Yeah. I was I was a manager at an O'Reilly Auto Parts because for some reason I did the shop thing because I thought, hey, uh, I'm good at turning wrenches. I'll make a job out of it. And the problem is it burned me out. When when your hobby becomes a job where you don't get to choose the work you're doing, it sort of sucks the life out of it. So I got away from it before it was ruined for me. And then I went to the parts aspect of it. I tried to do parts at the dealership, but they were full. So I went to, the local and started out as a driver and became a manager within 6 weeks because they realized, yeah, you're in the wrong place in this business. So I was working there already, and I could remember talking to people that I either worked with or the delivery drivers that came and dropped stuff off for us, or just, the guys walking in the door. But like everybody was just, they were angry, they were a little anxious, they were kind of confused, you know, and then they got a broke down car, so they're frustrated with that too. But everybody wanted to talk about it. Where these days, when something happens, if it's something that's actually worth talking about, a lot of times the media will just black it out and not talk about it. They're doing the opposite of what people want them to do. People want to hear these things. People want to discuss these things. It helps them cope with it or to, work through it. But, you know, it's amazing how fast the world changed in 20 years, right? All right, so let's get into. I've got some stories for you, so we'll get into a little bit of the news. I've only got 3 because I'm trying to keep this limited today, just because everyone has things to do today. Like, I'm sure of it. Either you have church services because they're holding something special for this, or maybe you're going to get together with family today, especially if you're a relative of any of the victims on this list. Um, or maybe, you just got errands to run. Whatever. It's just I'm not gonna take up 2 hours of your time today. So, uh, next week, normal service will resume. Panel wise, everything. Like, everything will be back to the way it was. But today's just a one off. And I'm trying to keep the profanity down, and I'm trying to keep the sarcasm down. But I still like to put these little quips for the stories. And the one I want to start off with to you today is called, or actually, it's not called anything, but the way I captioned this was, do you guys remember Mark Robinson? You know, he was that guy who once declared, I am the silent majority. Like, that quote should be the dead giveaway of who he is. And he was at his state's assembly that day, and he became a political juggernaut overnight because of it. So much so that he was elected the lieutenant governor of North Carolina, riding the momentum of that event. And in all honesty, kind of glad he made it there because the guy makes sense. And that's what's lacking in our country these days. Common sense. You know, the left will call gun control common sense. But that's an oxymoron because you're still trying to take control. And you can't do that because you're not taking control of criminals, you're just dictating the citizens. Anyway, he has declared war on his own governor because apparently in the state of North Carolina, you have to have what equates to a FOID card like Illinois has. But it's my understanding that the application for the cards are May issue. And the governor of North Carolina ignored the requests and vetoed a bill to rid the state of that ID. And a lot of people are calling it Jim Crow. And even Mark Robinson, he's noted and quoted down here that this personal or this law in their state is Jim Crow because they deny, I think it's 3 times, yeah, the applicants are rejected 3 times greater in the black community than it is the white community in the state of North Carolina. Now, if that's true, that's got to go. You know, personal freedom and liberty to defend yourself, that should have no color. Like, that should be colorblind. The only problem is Lady Justice in this country doesn't have a blindfold anymore, does she? She's got a ball gag with either an elephant or a donkey on it. So, yeah, he's basically declaring war on his own state and his own governor. And I think he's right for it. And I think maybe he has what it takes to take over the job of governor too. So I would not be surprised if he runs against his governor come next election. I mean, if he was in my state, I'd probably vote for the guy. He doesn't mince his words. Like, he's all business, and that's what we need. You know, he's not agenda. He's business so far, and I hope guys like him are stoic and stalwart enough not to smell the cherry blossoms, so to speak, which is usually what befalls most Congress people, freshman congressmen going to Washington. They get there all bright eyed and bushy tailed with this whole list of things that they wanted to accomplish that they promised their constituents they would do. And the first thing that happens is the old hat walks up to him and he says, "Ah, welcome to Washington. I see you got a list there. Can I see it?" He grabs it, rips it in half, throws it on the ground, and said, "You will fall in line or you will have a very short career here." That happens. That happens with most of them. Either that or they get there and they start realizing that the Kool-Aid tastes real good when they make 6 figures and get a pension. And all they do once they get elected is start working on their re-election campaign instead of actually doing any work. The only reason I'm intimately knowledgeable in this regard is because I put a guy in Congress in the last election He was once my county sheriff. He was once an Army major. He was a combat veteran, and I respected the absolute hell out of him. But I've been asking myself, what the hell have you done since we put you there? I have a personal face to face meeting with him within the next 2 weeks. So I get to get the answers that I'm looking for. And if he will allow me, I'll film it and I'll put it on the channel. Because I've got questions and I will hold him accountable and he will answer them. Or he won't get reelected. Flat out. Anyway, so that's my first story for the day. Mark Robinson, run for governor. People in North Carolina, put that man in charge. Just try it. Because apparently the guy that you've got now is just nuts. Alright, my next story. Dick Heller. That name might sound familiar to you. Heller versus the United States? Yeah, he's back in the news. Because he is suing DC again over ghost guns and the feeble attempts to try to criminalize your right to produce the very tool that can defend your life. If you weren't aware, you have the legal right to build your own gun. As long as you keep it in your possession for your use, you can build your own gun. And you black powder guys, you already knew this because they make kits where they send you a chunk of wood and a bunch of instructions and a couple of stencils and a lot of small parts in a barrel, and you can build your own. Well, now that we've got this advanced technology with CNC machines and 3D printers, suddenly the government doesn't seem to like that. They're like, no, 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 this is way too easy. We don't want the public to be able to arm themselves en masse. We will be out of control. We have to be in control. We know what's best for you. That's why you voted for us. All you dead people and computers out there. So yeah, Dick Heller is now suing federal government yet again. This will most likely reach the Supreme Court because of his track record over ghost guns. And Scott, you had a really good quote about what he said because you got into the story a little deeper than I did. Go ahead and tell people about that.
Which one?
Like the quote he said about why he's doing it, or like, do you remember me? That thing you told me before we went on air.
Oh shit, I forgot what I said.
Oh man. But anyway, yeah. Dick Heller is not a man to be trifled with. And he's definitely in your corner when it comes to your Second Amendment rights. And he's a lot older than most of us thought he was. A lot older. But you know what? With age comes wisdom. And a couple of gray hairs might actually work in his favor. Especially since he's going to eventually take this to a court full of people with gray hairs that hopefully still believes that Lady Justice has a blindfold. I'm not so sure these days. Our Supreme Court just feels like the third leg of politics again, and that's not cool. Like, there's not supposed to be a D or an R next to their name, but you know damn well who got picked by who.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, the guy who got rejected is now the Attorney General. And what's the first thing he decided to do? Attack Texas and Florida. Rights? Yeah. Attack Texas and Florida. Merrick Garland, if you don't know who I'm talking about. He and the DOJ are suing Texas and Florida. I think for the heartbeat bill, or, well, probably the heartbeat bill and the mask mandates. Like, he's going after everything because his handlers told him to. Which is kind of funny because twice this week, I think it was twice this week, the president has had a press conference where he's basically spilling the beans without spitting out the name of, listen, my people told me I'm not allowed to talk about this, or this is the part where I'm supposed to walk away and not answer any questions. And everyone's looking at him like, what? Like, if you don't know who he is, there's a man named Peter Ducey. He works for Fox News, and he has become the conservative version of Jim Acosta. And if you don't know who Jim Acosta is, he was the troll in the White House press corps that attacked Kayleigh McEnany every day over Trump. And she would categorically and systematically put him in his place. The only difference between him and Peter Ducey is nobody has any logical or legal way to put Ducey in his place because the questions he asked are all correct and truthful and righteous. And what I'm hoping for, and I really hope this happens before the midterms, I want to see the president wake up after beer and chili night or bad beer and very spicy Indian food night. And I think you know where I'm going with this because the day after that, not only are your insides grumpy, but that makes you pretty grumpy when you got to go to the can and bust a grumpy, if you know what I mean. But yeah, like just catch him on a bad day and have Peter Ducey go, by the way, Mr. President, who is pulling your strings? Because you never seem to answer that question. And just have him turn around with the most bitter look on his face and go, damn it, it's blank. Happy? And just walk away. And that will just blow the lid on everything. Because he's the kind of guy who doesn't have full capacity or full grip of his mental capacity. And if you catch him on a bad day and you get him to have a knee-jerk, blow his top reaction, it'll be the most forceful but truthful thing he'll say. And I truly believe that whatever name he comes up with, it's not going to be one we even thought about. Like, we're just going to be like, holy crap, that's the guy pulling the strings this whole time? Because my mentor, I talk to him daily. And I told him, I said, you know, I don't think it's Barack Obama pulling the strings. I know it looks like it is. And I know it's a good optic that it could be. But I don't think it's him. And he's like, why do you say that? And I'm like, because before he was president, he was a nobody. But the one thing he had was command of the English language. He was a great orator. He's a fantastic mouthpiece. And being the first black president, he has essentially racial immunity. Nobody would dare ask him or attack him for that. Because you're the first black president. That's like the biggest force field you can have politically. No one would dare take down that guy. So I thought, he's the perfect puppet mouthpiece. He's not the guy pulling the strings. There's somebody pulling that guy's strings still. And it would blow my mind if, you know, Biden loses his cool one day and spits out a different name. And then the party would have to frantically cover it up or backtrack it. But it'll be too late. The damage will have been done. Like, I mean, wouldn't it blow your mind if he just goes, listen, it's Dianne Feinstein, okay? And it's obviously not. And then even as a joke, it would be like a Scooby-Doo moment, but like, what if somebody walked up and pulled the mask off of Chuck Schumer's face and it was a 113-year-old Lyndon Baines Johnson going, my great society is here? That's, you know, crazy, but, you know, this party is the party of crazy, isn't it? So I think it would surprise me and shock me, but it wouldn't surprise me, if you know what I mean. Like, I just think that would happen. Anyway, all right, so third and final story I've got for you today. I don't know if I want to call this a happy ending or what, but do you remember Dave Chappelle? And he did this, there's a meme of it, but he goes, modern problems call for modern solutions, right? Well, I titled this story, Modern problems call for Texan solutions. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. So here's the story. Let me pull this up because it's got this stupid video pain in the way. So this happened, what was it? A week into Texas's constitutional carry taking place. A week. Not even a full week, and this happened. Okay? Or no, it was a full week. It was a full week. Sorry. This dude is going into a convenience store. And a guy approaches him and pulls up his shirt and flashes a gun. And he starts making demands like a robbery. Sorry about all the videos and stuff. We got a storm coming too. So anyway, this is like before midnight, right? This guy's probably just picking up a beer or lotto tickets or whatever, right? Whatever his business is. And this guy walks up and tries to rob him. Well, this guy's carrying. So this guy pulls out his gun and shoots the robber in the face. Right in his face. Now, no charges are filed against the shooter. The robber survives, and he was taken to the hospital in stable condition, and he's going to be charged with attempted armed robbery. And I bet that if you dig into the guy's details, he's probably got a rap sheet longer than a roll of toilet paper, which means he wasn't supposed to be owning the gun he probably had in his belt anyway, right? So how's that gun control working for you? Because apparently criminals don't seem to give a crap anyway. But this guy exercising his rights did, because he shot the guy in the face. That's the whole point. We are not going to be victims anymore. Because Texans now have their constitutional rights restored to them. So I used to be a CHL holder in my state, and then when my governor came to power, he his first act was to lower the fees to almost nothing, and then the year following that, he allowed licensed open carry. So you can go outside the waistband, which is what I prefer. And then after that, he pushed for constitutional carry, and that passed. And part of the reason that passed, well, the easy reason is because his party controls the state house. So things were going to sail on through anyway. But the justification for these bills to sail on through is where my governor's a genius. Because each step he took, he started polling data for this happening in correlation with decreasing crime rates. And every time the next bill passed, he was able to prove, we passed this, crime went down this much percentage in a year. So then they passed the next step. And he goes, now they passed this, and crime dropped even further and faster. So now constitutional carry's out, and a robber gets shot in the face. Sorry, I just love saying it like that. Gets shot in the face. And this is what happens when you don't want to be a victim anymore. You know, the saying an armed society is a polite society is 100% true. Because the fact of the matter is, and we've talked about this in the past, is you could be in a Whataburger and you can look out the window. This personally happened to me. You can look out the window and you can see somebody in their car fidgeting around with something. And then they get out of their car and they're fidgeting around with their pants and their belt and their shirt draping something. And they got shifty eyes. And they walk in and they start like casing the place. And you sit there and you tell yourself, this guy's fixing to rob this place. But then he starts fixing his eyes on 10 people in the Whataburger with a holstered weapon in plain view. And this guy turns around and very quickly shuffles to his car starts it and drives off. And the way I look at that, because my course of study growing up was sociology and psychology, was that man's life may have just changed forever. Because he looked at everyone in there carrying and he goes, wow, this isn't worth getting filled in for a couple of bucks. Got in his car and he was like, I almost lost my life doing something incredibly stupid. Now he could have went somewhere else to rob, or maybe he just drove home and thought, God, that was dumb. Why did I even think that was something worth doing? And that might have changed his life. And that didn't change the lives of everybody inside that would have been a victim. That's how you stop crime. That's how this guy who got shot in the face, that's how that crime was stopped. Because an armed society is a polite one. The 10 people inside, myself included, we weren't looking at each other with aggression. We were just looking at each other like, what's up? Patty melt? Onion rings? Whatever. It was just a normal day. So, yeah, since September 1st, I've been using my outside the waistband carry. Um, it's kind of funny because I got this table where I've got all my carry pistols laid out in their holsters with their spare mags, and just behind them are my watches. So it's like I get all my EDC stuff put together. I stop at this table and I go, I think I'm going to wear that watch today. And then I'm like, I think I'm going to carry that pistol today. And so far, I've narrowed it down from 8 different carry pistols down to 2 for hot weather. So typically I've been carrying a 380 Easy Shield or Glock 42X. 43X? Shit, I forgot the name now. Hang on. 43X with the shield arms mags. And those seem to be my most comfortable outside carry. But, it's been a while since I had done that before. And it's I finally gotten used to it again. It's comfortable again, humping the weight. I really wanted to carry my 10 mil 2011, but it's a full size pistol and it's all metal and it's really heavy. So typically I wear outside the waistband with a shirt draped over it. I can't do that with the 2011. It's just too big. So I have to wait till it gets a little cooler outside so I can like wear a flannel and tuck that in and then just drape it with like a flannel or a hoodie or something, like a jacket or whatever. Or I can just use my shoulder rig. But in the summertime, it's kind of uncomfortable, so I usually carry small. But anyway, you're probably hearing all my dogs go crazy again, which means I've got to beat some dogs. I'm kidding. Uh, now I got to wash some dogs today anyway. So yeah, we have hit the hour mark, and as promised, um, I'm going to spare you the next hour because I really didn't have a lot to share today, just because I really wanted today's episode to focus on everybody but us. Honestly, like take a good look at the names on the left, and maybe one of them, or maybe you are related to one of them. That's who today is for. For my show and everyone else's before and after. I know that my show follows Travis P11's in the morning, and I don't know if it's by coincidence or if it's out of respect or whatever, but I notice his shows always end just before mine begins, so I'm very appreciative of that. Um, and I don't know if he's cross pollinating and telling people that I've got a show now, but if he is, thank you. And I just told you that he has one too. So yeah, he has Caliber Corner in the mornings on Saturdays. It starts 2 hours before me, so I go on at 10. He goes on at 8. And then there is one other major show that I know of that goes on later today, but I don't cross pollinate that one because he doesn't. So why should I? I know it's fickle and maybe a little immature, but if he shares, I'll share. That's mutual. So anyway,
No, he usually just lets his run like 2 hours.
okay, okay.
That's his normal usual ending time.
That's what I kind of thought. Like, I think the only one who runs longer is Gary, and he usually does that on Sundays for like 4.5 hours, which I'm sure I could stretch ours out to do the same thing, but I got things to do, and so do y'all. Y'all have things to do too. So let me get into that actually. What's the rest of your weekend, or what's the rest of your weekend gonna look like?
Um, Probably get motivated and actually take a shower. Nah, I'll probably hit a few gun stores. Same thing I do every weekend.
Hmm.
Look for deals.
There's a gun show in Pasadena, which is about an hour and a half from me. Um, I could drive over there. I'm thinking about selling my Mossberg Shockwave just because I really don't have a use for it, honestly. I kind of built it and I was really excited to do it, but I grew out of it. And if I get another shotgun, it's going to be a semi auto. But I got the pump now and I really don't want it anymore. So, like, if anyone uh, wanted to buy it, I'll take it to the local show, and if they want to throw a couple $100 my way, I might come home empty-handed, which is fine. I don't know if I'm going to do that today or maybe go tomorrow. Probably tomorrow. I'll probably go tomorrow morning because my coworker George wants to go, so I'll just tell him tonight, hey, we'll go tomorrow. And I'll probably end up. I gotta wash 6 dogs. I gotta do flea treatments. I gotta do. I probably will make more 9 mil today. Actually, I've got everything ready to go for it, so that's what I'll probably do the rest of today. And then I don't know, make bullets and drink beer, I guess. I mean, I'm gonna kind of chill. I don't have any plans to go out and do things. It's just too hot. I'll do the show tomorrow morning. Gun show tomorrow morning, not this show. Yeah, that's pretty much what my weekend's gonna look like. So anyway, folks, I'm going to start playing this. And I know it's kind of awkward that it's ending an hour early, but like I said, some people have things to do today, and I will respect your time as such. Thank you all for watching. We typically do the week in review every Saturday from 10 to noon. If you want to be a member here, or join, or be part of my server, email me at the address below. And, oh, I forgot. This is what I wanted to show you before the end of the show today. So, the media likes to divide us, right? And because they like to divide us, they like to call people our enemy that may not be our enemies. Because once upon a time, even Russia took pity on us for 9/11. And if you can't read the caption, it says, "Let this be a reminder that when the media isn't trying to make enemies out of the Russians, that there was a time when they took pity on us and delivered this beautiful memorial which stands in Bayonne, New Jersey, across from the Statue of Liberty, to commemorate one of the darkest days in our history, and to remind us that our grief was shared by even those some of us had the audacity to call our enemies." This is the Teardrop Memorial by Zurab Tsereteli. He is a Russian. This was a gift from Russia to the United States over this tragedy. And it's almost never talked about because the media is too busy trying to divide us. But this was a world in solidarity. And I will leave you all today with that reminder and that image right there. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.